All right, we're here. We're here. So, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing much better than Kiki Palmer's baby daddy. I'll let you know that. So I'm in a great
Ooh.
mood after letting it out. How about you?
I'm well, I would say that I'm doing better than him as well. But then again, I just went through the red door, so wait, what is that in the corner of my room?
Oh no.
What what? Oh, okay. All right. Since going through the red door, I'm seeing demons now. Okay, we're not okay.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not seeing Insidious anytime soon.
Apparently not. Apparently not. But unless I drag you back, you listen. I can't be the only person that whose eyes are now opened. I
That's
need
fair.
I need to drag everybody in this call here with me.
All right. And since you say everyone in the call, we do have a special guest today. We will be introducing her a bit later, but Kimber, Special Agent K, thank you for joining us on our Secret Invasion Missions, episode
Yeah,
3.
happy to be here.
Yes. So I'm Demetrius,
And I'm Demetrius,
and Meech presents.
Blerd City Podcast.
All right. So again, as we mentioned, we do have a special guest for our it's not mid-season finale, but the midpoint of the Secret Invasion run. Last week went a bit off the rails. Every time we go off the rails, we always need someone to kind of get us right back on track. So that's what we're going to try to do. With that, hit us with the legal spiegel.
All right, the purpose of this podcast is to explore digital and print media. All sources we reference are owned by the respective companies, and our thoughts and opinions are strictly our own and the Squirrel Queen and reflect no biases or corporate agendas whatsoever. Your discretion is advised. All hail to the squirrels.
All right. So before we get into just like the shenanigans of this week's episode and just breaking down the Secret Invasion, we like to really introduce our guests, let the people know who you are. So, Kimber, who are you?
I'm Kimber, as you've said. I am a teacher and a big advocate of the nerdum.
Nice, nice. So, like, what were some of your favorite shows and characters growing up?
So I think everything like that, it kickstarted when I was really young and I would watch cartoons in the morning. It was always the Snorks and then the Smurfs and then Scooby-Doo came on. Scooby-Doo was my favorite. And then when I was a little bit older, my mom introduced me into the world of Harry Potter, and then everything just kind of spiraled from there. My favorite characters growing up, so like at a young age, Scooby-Doo, Hermione and Harry Potter and Dobby, Han Solo and Chewie in Star Wars, and then Gamora and Thor in Marvel.
Nice, nice, nice. Meet your questions.
Nice, nice. So you just mentioned all your favorite shows and whatnot. How come you never left the nerd life?
Oh, I just love the concept of like exploring something that isn't your own and getting engulfed into a whole other world to just escape. I love the visuals and just the love you develop for all these characters and just them being carried over for several movies and series. I don't know, you just develop this love and this type of escape, and I really like that.
Nice,
Okay,
nice.
nice.
So, what are you kind of into now?
My big two are Star Wars and Marvel. It's probably the two things I keep up with the most. And then I sprinkle in a little bit of DC, Lord of the Rings, and then The Witcher of late. So,
Toss your coin.
Yes, indeed. All right, thanks. So, thanks. We're so glad to have you, Agent K, Agent Meech, and Agent Fallen Shinigami are here to help us. So, with that, episode 3, Betrayed, Pulse of the People. Since you are a guest, how did you generally feel about this episode without kind of spoiling?
I think I said earlier that everything and nothing happened at the same time. There was just a lot of opening doors and then no answers to the doors that were open. So for me, it was an episode that kind of sets up some conflict to be solved and some really cool avenues to explore. But that's how I felt about it.
Okay, so definitely got to be careful about mentioning doors around Meech, but how do you feel the pulse of the people generally?
According to the demon that's sitting in my corner, all right. Apparently, the name of the episode feels very apt. Some people feel betrayed. Some people feel some people feel some hurt, feel some type of way about the events that happened in this episode. Still a lot of questions that need to be answered. But a couple questions from last week did get answered. So I'm just like, oh, okay. You're starting to pick it up a bit, but at the same time, you raising more than you're answering. So help how?
Yeah, General, I feel like people kind of just with the ending that we'll talk about kind of felt like how they did at the end of episode 1, where it was like, come on, really? But at the same time, I do feel like it was like, hey, things are really, well, kind of moving, but at the same time, there's still more to get to. And a lot of people have done deep dives about trailers and who wasn't in said trailers. So we can get into that. So let's get into our breakdown and recap of episode 3, if you want to start us off.
All right. So first thing that we got to talk about is the fact that, like, essentially Gravik, he essentially talks with a bunch of the scroll council, if you will, and he brings up the term that I basically called throughout this entire series, and that
in episode 1.
In episode 1, I called it out, and now I knew the plan was here. They trying to create super scrolls. They just, all right, Marvel, run me my money. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying. But essentially, yeah, he's just like, hey, I'm gonna have like super scrolls. We using the DNA of all these heroes. We're replicating powers now, and we're gonna like infiltrate the Navy. We got some rogue operatives out there, and we gonna blow up a UN aircraft and cause World War III. Even though World War III is about to happen in real life, but that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there. I ain't talking about that right now. But yeah, if you want to talk about that for just a little bit.
Yeah, Kimber, you got anything?
I think like the biggest like just thing for me was just kind of that interaction between Talos and Fury and going to see the commander and just kind of how like Gaia saves the day, I think was that big moment in me.
All right, so we'll get to that definitely. So going from there, we do get a flashback of Fury back in, I believe, 1998, and we see Vara, her scroll name, and then who's also Priscilla, her human name. So we'll get into the downfalls of being a scroll lover later. But with that, we kind of see how their relationship starts off. And there's a really like, I don't want to say it was a cool interaction, but later when we go back to the present day where she's like, hey, I had to warn you twice. One, because you turned to dust in the blip. And then 2, whenever you came back, you then immediately went to space. One thing that I do kind of need to see, since Fury has been gone for such a long time, they need to explain his like disappearance the second time, just because we don't really know, like we didn't really see him in space except for that one time in Spider-Man Far From Home, where it was just like, hey, we thought this entire time you were on planet, it turned out to be Talos, and actually you're chilling on the spaceship. And we don't know like the ramifications, because the entire first 3 episodes, people have been like, hey, Fury, you're that guy, but then you ran off and hid in space for like 5 or X amount of years. So I kind of want to see them explain that in the next 3 episodes as well. But moving forward, we do see there's kind of like a break in trust with that. And just like she may or may not be working with Gravik. Yeah. So yeah, take over, Meech.
All right. So after the 2 lovebirds decide to essentially go separate for a little bit, we essentially have Gravik ended up meeting up with Talos, having that parlay, if you will. And when I tell you that this man Gravik is on some true villain timing, I'm like, good heavens. So like, of course, they're at this museum. They looking at the art piece, and he essentially spouts out his whole philosophy. Like, hey, we got like all these soldiers. They go out, they fight these wars, but then these politicians, they get all the credit, and they send real cozy, real smooth out here. I'm just like, he kind of spitting a little, but you ain't gonna give me that easy, Gravik, because you killed Maria, so I can't rock with you throughout this entire series. And he essentially like, and then they sit down, and basically he just says like, Talos basically tells like, hey, I'm gonna need you to like just stop, right? I mean, just stop killing humans, stop being a ruthless genocidal maniac. And Gravik's like, I see your point, and I'm gonna raise you one. How about no? and then I'm gonna make sure that Gaia stays in one piece. And then Talos, of course, that triggered Talos, and he decided to run up on him. Got his hands around it, man's throat, and then a bunch of scrolls were right there. It's like, oh nah, this man's about to get jumped at this whole entire meeting. But nah, they didn't get to scrapping yet, and essentially, like, he just said, like, hey, as long as you keep Guy's name out your mouth, we straight, we square, even though we on opposite views, and just to prove it, I'm stabbing your hand.
And just like John Wick 4.
Yep. Just, man, actually John Wick 3. Oh, 3 and 4, but it was both of them actually, because John Wick did the same thing. But but yeah, so like when he pulls it off, you see that he heals himself with Extremis. Which I'm like, oh boy, well, he about to be Super Scroll number 1, and we about to all right, I'm gonna need somebody to run his pockets, call the Avengers, call Doctor Strange, call Spider-Man, call somebody. Oh wait, I forgot, y'all don't know who Spider-Man is anymore. Call Venom. No, wait, y'all don't know who he is. Dang it, who we are. But yeah, so that's just pretty much and then from there, essentially Nick, he basically finds Taylor, is like, hey. And you can see like a real just buddy cop dynamic between the two of them, which I really loved. And they're just like, all right, so I need your help.
Basically.
Just straight up. I need your help, Talos. I ain't where I am without you. Like I'll kiss your feet. Do whatever it takes as long as we go murk this man. Murk this man Bob, who's the one who's basically letting the order of murder the UN happen.
Yeah. So Kimber, you got anything with that parts?
Yeah, just to kind of like rewind it back a bit, and like speaking of villains and super serum. So I know a couple episodes ago on episode 1, you guys had mentioned the Flag Smashers and how they were looking for a home and how they were trying to access super serum. And that made me think of Sharon Carter. Because she was like, I'm just in it for the super serum. I didn't really care about you. And in Falcon and Winter Soldier, she kills people without remorse. And that was not Sharon Carter before the blip. When I think it's Endgame, when they're showing Infinity Wars, where they're showing the pictures of everyone that got blipped, Sharon Carter's in that picture. Now, whether she got blipped or went to the like criminal underworld, during that time, it's kind of up for grabs. But it makes me wonder, did her getting kind of exiled from the state turn her that bad and into a villain, or like, is she a Skrull? And at this point, like, for everybody, you're like, are they a Skrull? Like, I don't know. Like, they could be, they could not. But I just want to know, like, if there's connection between her and Gravik and getting them super serum, just with all the like the underground connections she has.
That is interesting. That's definitely interesting, because when they showed last week the different, the 4 different powers, DNA samples, don't know how to say it, but essentially, like, when they showed that to them, it was like, how did you get each of these? Like, it's so weird, like, because all of them were at like different points in time. So with that, one thing with the meeting before Talos, see, this is where Gravik Meech, it's hard, because like he might be a villain after our own hearts. He leaves breadcrumbs for Gaia, where one, he already like asked her like, hey, the dude that got clapped last week that we shot, that we knew snitch, but he didn't know where the hideout was. Like, only us 4 knew where the hideout was. So like something's not right there. And then also when he got out the car, he like specifically was on the phone call, and he was like, hey, we're gonna bomb this aircraft or whatever with this specific submarine. Like, that had to be intentional. So like he's locked in, like we said, Meech.
See, it's like you love it but you hate it at the same time, because this man's down despicable. But again, I can't get over him and Maria. It's like if you kill a beloved character, like you immediately down here for me. I don't care what you say. I need your pockets ran.
That's fair. And then we also see that Gaia, she helps her father Talos, so she is officially like on their side. It was kind of like 50-50 going into like the past 2 episodes, but it was more or less confirmed in this one. So moving past that, kind of with the team up, the buddy cop show, they get a little bit of help from Sonya Fallsworth. And then the two of them have a very interesting conversation outside of Bob's house, if y'all want to take over from there.
Ooh, oh, yeah. Yeah, and by outside, you mean when they were driving up to when they got there. But essentially how Talos is basically like, hey, Nick, essentially like you were at the bottom. It was up to us that basically got you where you were. It's like when you were just a fledgling. You were at the bottom. And then you stumbled on to us. Then we became your secret network. We got you all your connects. We did some hits for you. We made you Nick Fury. So I need my respect. And essentially like, and Nick is just basically like, so is you done? Because we here. And that's the main thing I took out of that. I was like, okay, listen, like Talos, he just wants to be acknowledged. He wants to be acknowledged as an equal. He wants to be acknowledged as like, hey, he just wants his flowers. He just wants his flowers from Nick. Because all Nick been doing is using. And I feel that on a completely personal and emotional level. Oh yeah, that's true too, Demon. But yeah, he basically saying we need powers too. But yeah, so essentially like, hey, just Talos pouring his heart out to Nick, but doing it in a pretty funny manner.
What I found really interesting about that part, when they were talking about how, the backwards relationship between humans and dogs, but I'll save that for another podcast. But
I did not want to touch that with an 80-foot pole.
But with that, really just Talos being like, hey, show me appreciation. And it's like, hey, you're talking about you had to cover up my messes. And like you mentioned, Mitch, we basically made you. So don't like twist the story in front of me. That's kind of hurtful. And I think like really Talos with Nick Fury, what we've seen in the past 2-3 episodes is like, this is my friend that I want to not treat me like he's like, I'm his lackey. And essentially like he wants that appreciation. He wants that, like you said, equality in a sense of like standing. And so that was really interesting conversation. And then I was going to have a big question about, is Nick Fury really him after Gravik kind of explained that? And we're seeing like how Nick Fury came to be. That was immediately answered in the next scene where Talos gets made because, we'll talk about Skrulls and how they need to disguise themselves better later. But Talos essentially gets made. Then he gets taken upstairs, held hostage by Bob. And then Nick Fury takes the son of Bob and like he puts it to his head. He's like, hey, we can play games or you can give us these nuclear codes. So with that, they kind of like have a very tense scene where it's like they only have so much time before the warship is going to blow up the UN plane. If y'all want to talk about that scene as well.
Yeah, so I think like at least for me that scene was like really, it was high strung also because like the music that was building and then us cutting to them on the submarine. You had the Skrulls like, hey, orders is orders. Good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. If you know, you know. Shout out to all my Clone Wars fans. But
Batch, baby.
But he essentially like is like, hey, let's fire it up. And then you tell like the other dude, he ain't no Skrull because he hesitating. He's like, man, I really don't want to do this. This sounds like a stupid decision. And it would have been amazing for me if he just went AWOL right then and there. But that wouldn't. But the ending is actually even more satisfactory. So he does that, and then you get Bob here straight up antagonizing Taylor. It's like, oh yeah, okay, we figured you out. We know your stupid daughter guy is a traitor. It's like, you didn't hit the Gaia button. Boom, boom. R.I.P. to Bob, because Talos put a few rounds in him, and now they're scrambling because they're scrambling to figure out the codes, and then he ends up calling Gaia on a phone that, if you remember, like after like the Gravik conversation, Talos bumps into an old man who then gives him a phone. That was 100% Gaia right there. I don't know if you guys like caught that, but I was like, yeah, because I saw like some reviews there like, they don't know who that was or like what the intention was. Like, no, that was her. And then she goes to where Bob actually was and like probes his memories. Like, okay, I know exactly who what the passcode is. Of course, it's the son's name, because why wouldn't it be? I don't know why they didn't try that first, but so Talos was able to deactivate, like send the ghost, like, hey, mission abort. And this is where one of my favorite scenes comes up, because that scroll he tried. He tried to launch it anyways, and bro's like, man, if you don't get your dumb self on somewhere.
He was definitely arrested.
Like, arrested? Nah, six bullets is going in that man. If that was me. No, Kimber, you want to talk about this, Bessie?
So I want to talk about more. So I thought it was interesting that originally Talos, he doesn't take the kid. He sees the kid, he leaves him alone. He kind of has like that fatherly moment. And then Nick just takes the kid. He's like, this is how we're going to negotiate, which makes me wonder, Nick has a wife, he could have a kid, but that scene kind of made it feel like maybe he doesn't have a kid, and kind of that like empathy. And then, obviously you don't want to kill the kid, but Talos pretty quickly kills Bob. And so I think that's kind of like the theme in the show is like, there's just like killing without thought. Like there's no like, there's not a ton of drawn out dialogue. It's pretty, you had mentioned in an earlier episode talking about Andor, like it is darker. And you kind of get that sense in the show. But that's really kind of what popped out to me. And then,
that's a good point about just like killing without, thought, because literally he doesn't, it's just like bam. And then how Maria got clapped, bam. So, and then the next death that we quote unquote death that we talk about where, so with that, Talos tells Guy to get out. And I have two questions from this, but essentially she tries to flee. She turns to herself, gets on a bike, goes down the only dirt road that could lead in and out of the place. Gravik is like, yeah, I knew it was you. You fell into my mousetrap that I set up, and just like I thought it would. And then he hit her with the coldest line. He was like, essentially, yeah, if World War III started, that would have been exquisite, but finding out who the traitor was essential, and so that was you. And then so she was like, hey, you gotta have to kill me. She should have hit him with the what happened to my mom, but she didn't. So she tried to stand tall about how people, you're gonna lead our people to destruction. And he's like, cool, shoot her, and leaves. So with that, she, she's in her scroll form. And then we move forward to the final scene, which, again, Meech, I think you might have written the show. We go to Vara / Priscilla. She gets a phone call, and everyone is saying that who she was talking to, their voice sounded like Rhodey. I don't know, but it could be. So she does know Gravik, which she slightly kind of was misleading about to Fury earlier on.
Mm-hmm. So essentially she gets a call and is like, hey, I'm trying to speak to Gravik, and then that person says like, nah, because you're speaking to me now. I listened to that on my headphones, like my AirPods. I listened to it on like 2 different headsets. I'm like, and then of course the TV. So I was trying to make sure, like, man, who is that? I was like, I know that ain't who I think it is. And then I hear, I'm like, if that's Rhodey, run me my money. Run me my money, because no way I'm calling Rhodes being a scroll.
And then it kind of tied into earlier in the episode. Fury said, hey, I know of a high-ranking American official that's in London. Guess who was in London in the previous episode? Rhodey, who was literally talking to the president right next to him in episode 1. So it's a cookie crumb, but it's definitely like tying there. Maybe they'll try to hit us with like, a genjutsu, show us it's a trap, but I'm not sure. But 2 questions that I have that are actually kind of, it's questionable writing. One, so if it relates to Gaia. So I kind of have to ask them together. So for the first one, Nick Fury, out of all people, wouldn't demand that the scrolls let him know there's a way to like figure out the scrolls, right? But with that, which is like kind of shocking to me. So like the fact that you just don't know is kind of weird. But it's been established that even Skrulls can't tell who Skrulls are throughout the course of the episode, and then even tying back into Captain Marvel. So with that, why wouldn't Gaia just turn into somebody else, or just turn into like a butterfly and go away? Why turn into herself and flee? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, firstly, the fact that I don't even think they can turn into butterflies and fly like that.
I saw that in something I read is like they said that the Skrulls can turn into any living creature and replicate their DNA perfectly.
The question is, do they even have said DNA? But on them, that
you could literally turn into anything else, anybody else. She could turn into the old man to hide in the base.
Yeah, could turn into the old man that gave Fury the phone. I mean, gave Talos the phone. But no, I think that was just poor decisions on her end. It was just raps for her, like, because don't forget, she's still like basically a teenager in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she's a super terrorist, but still a teenage super terrorist, none the same. And if Skrull physiology is the same as humans, then them hormones and brain development skills did not kick in. So she was most definitely not locked in.
That's a good way to cover for bad writing. Kimber, you got anything?
Well, I'm wondering, like, what happens to the bodies of the people they're overtaking when they die? Because remember, she went back to Bob and looked through his memories, and I couldn't, like, I'm trying to remember, like, if he had any wounds on him, like, when she was looking through his memory bank, like, what happens to those people, you know?
I think they just remain in their state of, getting mind melded or whatever. Is that right, Meech?
I think so, but like, that's something that never got addressed before. My assumption would be like, okay, they would still have the memories only if like that person took those memories beforehand, but after that person dies, of course they have as long as however much time, like 7 minutes or so, that the brain still functions after death, and then boom, memory's gone. R.I.P.
Yes. And then also now relating to Varys / Priscilla, we told you people about loving Skrulls and how that can go wrong, these untrustworthy Skrulls.
That's crazy. Isabel, I kind of don't want to touch this topic with a 50-foot pole.
Oh, now you don't want to join me on the train.
But the demon on my shoulder is telling me otherwise. You know what, buddy? Let's do this. All right, let's get into this. Into some Skrull loving. All right, let's talk about why this was a terrible idea. Because now Fury, she know your secrets, my guy. Well, except for the secret of why you was on that spacecraft, but she know your secrets. She know your plans, and so does Gravik. It's raps for you, my guy. It's like if she ever turned. If Talos ever turned, it's raps for you. Mm-hmm. And you don't have any contingency plan that we know of. If your contingency plan is Captain Marvel, my bad, my fault. If Captain Marvel, then nah, it's over. Hail to the Skrull Queen. That's all I gotta say to that.
Kimber, you got anything for the rest of any part of the show?
No, I think that's it.
So yeah, and just like you mentioned with if Talos turned on, Talos actually gave like a really sweet line in the show where Fury asks, "What happens if you turn on me, or would you turn on me?" And Talos says, "You don't know me that well, apparently, because I want to join Graphic because I'm with you." And that was deep. That like really shows like it speaks to who Talos' character is, and then also his relationship with Fury. So with that, we can get into the MVP of the week. I have mine. Do you two have any?
Kimber, you have yours?
Yes. Mine's Gaia. Like, she saved the day. Now her escape was questionable at best after she just did something smart. But I mean, watch the trailer. That's all I got to say about that.
Nice. Meech.
Oh man. Besides Gaia, I would say my MVP would be Talos, because of the fact like he had such strong convictions. He out here pressing Gravik, even though he had a bunch of Skrulls on him. And he was pressing him with zero fear or hesitation. And then there's also the fact like he was out here murking folks left and right. Like he didn't care if he was Skrull or not, which I'm like, pop off, King, pop off. But yeah, he definitely my MVP.
Yeah, that was the same as my for my MVP, definitely Talos, because he did what needed to be done. And then just to see that evolution of how in the first episode he's a pacifist to like in this third episode where he's like, yo, I'm about whatever needs to get done, getting done. So definitely MVP. With that, we're going to transition into our big question of the week. Doesn't have to relate to the show, could be adjacent. So what do you two have?
What you got, Kimber?
My question was, do you think that the Marvel universe is taking a turn and kind of exploring something more dark and not having those heroes save the day moments in the end?
It's definitely whenever they involve Shield, aka like kind of Captain America-esque type storytelling, it always gets more like shades of gray, like Winter Soldier, Civil War, where it's just kind of like, is this story really kind of how, what we're seeing, is it actually what happened? So see, I don't know what obviously Gravik wants to destroy humanity. That's not going to happen. We have Secret Wars and we have Kang Dynasty coming up. We have to get to that somehow. Humanity needs to be around, but I do feel like something seismic will and should happen because of that.
Yeah, definitely. I do think like when it comes to having a darker ending, like you can have like an ending where the hero kind of somewhat saves the day, but it's like they win the battle yet they're losing the war type of deal. And if this show is anything to go by right now, heck, Nick Fury might not be in the good graces of everybody at the end of this. That's all I gotta say about that one. But yeah, do you have any more questions?
No, that was my big one. It just made me think of that because now if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, sorry, spoiler alerts if you haven't seen it. It was a bit darker, and I don't know, the movie kind of gave me like the heebie-jeebies as far as like looking at on Rocket's past. Now they did kind of have like that heroes save the day moment, but there was this very like, I don't know, like human realism of it where, it didn't end how you expect. Like Gamora didn't join them, they split up, it just wasn't kind of that pretty bow that gets tied. And I kind of like that though. Like it was different and it was humanistic, and so that's kind of where the question had come from. But that was my one. So
that's good. Yeah, it was a very mature ending for that. Tears all around, even if they had one of the hypest songs playing for it. So my question of the week is, it relates to the conversation that Talos and Fury had in the car. And then my question is, how do we quantify success? Because with that, the entire time, of Marvel, it's like Fury is this guy who single-handedly like propped himself up. He's the intellectual god, super spy, everything. And then Talos is like, hey, you were a nobody without us. With us, you like rose to the top. But kind of in the same sense is Fury was able to manage those resources to his use. He was useless in finding them a home, but that's here nor there. And then just like with that, we've seen him be kind of productive in just like different areas of like the Marvel universe where he has been like, hey, let me get the Avengers together. Hey, let me like put people in the right places to kind of combat. Like he had the right idea about the Avengers, and it did show like in Infinity War, if you guys were together from the beginning, Thanos wouldn't have gotten the Infinity Stones. We could have stopped him, but everyone was separate. And that was also when Fury was out of the picture. So that was kind of my question.
Yeah, and that's great questions too. That's a great question too. I think for me, I actually have a couple. Firstly, I mean, you alluded to it earlier when we were talking about Priscilla and how she had to mourn him twice, and that begs the question, like what is the thing that caused Fury to decide to go into space in the first place and to create Sword? I feel like that's a question that definitely needs to get answered, and give him why would he leave his wife, especially knowing that he returned, and knowing that she spent 5 years basically mourning him, and why would he do that? So that's definitely one. And the other thing is actually just basically what's gonna happen at the end. So like when it comes to Talos, right? When he learns about the fate of Gaia, what is that scroll about to do? Is he about to go on a murder path against Gravik? Is it gonna be like a situation where it's like Gravik is actually the key to like fixing a certain situation and Nick Fury needs him alive to do that, but Talos is like, nah, he needs to die? Because you see in this episode that just mentioning Gaia's name is enough to get you to get him to kill, even in high stress, high strung scenarios, like with Bob. Like, you needed Bob alive to get the codes out, yet he killed him in a split instinct just because of Gaia. So, like, is he going to do the same to Gravik? And, like, would Fury need to stop/rein him in?
That's a great one. Also, remember, he does believe Gravik is responsible for his wife dying. So, the same person killed your wife and your daughter.
Yep, it's wraps. It's wraps as soon as he learns. It's wraps. And like, even going along with that, it also like it's like one of those things that you're seeing in a lot of different like stories and whatnot. It's like, all right, the two friends who are in it together, but then the antagonist does something to break one of them and causing him to kind of turn rogue. And now it's up to the other friend to kind of like stop him from doing something that'll just screw everything up. I'm like, and that's why I'm like, why are y'all focusing way too hard on this relationship between Fury and Talos? Like, is this a catalyst for them breaking up, basically?
I love that you mentioned that. So leading into that, now we can get into our predictions for next week and the big picture view. So Agent K, if you want to take it.
Next week, I'm thinking we'll see more of Rhodey, Vara, that connection to Gravik, just the makings of that. I'm hoping we're going to see more of a teaming up between Sonya and Fury, and then just more information on the super serum and kind of how that's going to go for like the injection of the scroll.
Mitch?
Well, I basically explained like my big picture view, but in terms of next week's episode, I really just want to see like, all right, is Taylor gonna find out? B, is Gaia actually dead? Or are we gonna confirm it, yes or no? Or I already see your look, Kimber. I'm kind of in agreement too, but we're leaving that for the audience. And then
Kingpin death.
and then big three is of course like just Fury getting his groove back, because this is episode 4 of 6. If this man doesn't get his groove back at this point, I feel like if they wait too long, it's going to be a bit of a cop-out.
Yes. So kind of with my predictions for next week, obviously, I feel like they've been answering a lot of questions that we've had in the very next episode for a lot of them. So I feel like we're going to find out what Priscilla/Vara was doing next episode. Whether Rhodey gets revealed as a scroll or not, I feel like that's an episode 5 thing rather than episode 4 thing. But we definitely need at some point either a major flashback to like 5 years ago, or like Fury explaining why he didn't like stay on Earth, why he had to like completely leave and never come back for as long as he did. And with that, kind of relating to what you said, Meech, Tails is going to find out, because I feel like Gravik is going to make fun of him for it. He's like, oh, you can't protect your daughter. You can't protect your wife. How do you think you could protect the scrolls? So I think he's going to hit him with a bar like that. But then kind of what you said, it's either Fury's going to have to rein Talos in, or they're going to like go completely out of pocket for the rest of the 3 episodes. And then also, like you mentioned, Kimber, we definitely need to see more of Sonya in some capacity. So big picture Marvel view, anything else?
I mean, I basically said my piece already.
All right, so we can move forward from there. We've covered Secret Invasion, but we do want to do a quick mailbag just because we recorded this episode after the episode that you'll hear on our main podcast on Wednesday. So Meech, if you want to hit us with the questions.
All right, so this is a by our boy Meran Jojo, the man of many talents and also movie opinions. And so his first question is, do you guys ever wonder if is there a universe of you guys to where y'all aren't watching comic book movies? Oh, okay, I see how you wrote. So, do you guys ever wonder if there's a universe of us like not watching comic book movies due to both franchises not doing well? I would say in the infinite multiverse, yes, there would be one. As far as is this the current universe? Nah, not by a long shot, because even though DC fumbled the bag heavily in every single turn, we got James Gunn helming it. He hopefully he gonna be the savior. If not, then well, that's wraps on DC.
I gotta say one thing. Sorry to cut you off. Superman Legacy better be an S tier movie because they putting way too much hype on this movie for it to be like normal. Like it can't even be like basic level. Like it has to be like an S tier movie. When we came on for like Across the Spider-Verse, it better be like that. That's all I'm gonna say. Because James Gunn said The Flash was one of the best superhero movies of all time. And we're not doing that rant again. So that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Demon, do you want me to go into details about that? Oh, no. All right. He said no. Okay, so and then when it comes to that, like when it comes to Marvel, again, Marvel's just still in stride right now. They still doing their thing. We still got the Sony verse. And by the Sony verse, I mean Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, and Beyond the Spider-Verse. That's the only. Oh yeah, and also Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and then Venom 3. Those are the only movies I'm acknowledging. The only movies that exist. All right. And so they're still doing their thing. We're not gonna address the two elephants in the room when it comes to the Sony verse, but yeah, their animated movies are we said it, S tier, S plus, S for Spider. And but yeah, so like I say, like we're good there. We're good there.
Kimber, you got any thoughts?
I don't know if there'd be like a universe where I wouldn't be a part of some fandom. I feel like I'm just always rooting for them. There's something I attach to, and you go through the highs and the lows with everything, and just kind of hope for the best.
Yeah, and plus, reportedly, we're apparently getting the Spawn movie in 2025. But but I'm holding out hope, but I'm weary of that because this writer strike is going crazy. But yeah, so next question, which actually is going to tie into your thoughts on Superman Legacy being an S tier movie. What are y'all's thoughts on David Cornsweet as the new Superman?
I don't know what he's acted as before, so I can't give an honest opinion. And then I will also say this: I thought that Edward, our boy Robert Pattinson, was not going to be a great, not going to be a great Batman. The Batman is a phenomenal movie. I'm not going to judge anybody that gets cast. It depends on the movie itself.
Yeah, so the main thing I know David Cornsweet from is House of Cards, because like he played in a few episodes of that. I can't remember. Oh wait, no, I think it. Yeah, I just remember seeing him in that show, and that's really it.
Okay, I know we can't watch that show anymore, so.
Yep, R.I.P. But yeah, so like again, I'm holding out hope, like the S on his chest, that he's actually gonna do good, and we all know like he's gonna be compared to Henry Cavill. We know he's gonna be compared to the actor who plays Clark on the Superman TV show right now, and also to
boy Derek from Teen Wolf. That you need to watch, Meech. I'm not letting it go.
I know you're not, but me and my demon say, nah, we ain't watching Teen Wolf. All right,
and High School Musical.
Fight you. you would have to fight me. It'll be a straight up brawl before that happens. But yeah,
we were all in this together.
Yes, thank you. He doesn't have his head in the game. Next question.
All right. So for my last question, before I end up turning into before I let the demon take control, what's the one anime that ended that you would love to see come back for another season or a spin-off or a prequel?
Well, Bleach already got its redo, so that's one that I was super happy about. I would love if Soul Eater got fixed because that ending was trash. But if they did Soul Eater right, I definitely would want to see that come back, among others. I'll probably have to think about something else as well.
Okay, good. Well, seeing as how Trapped in a Dating Simulator is getting season 2, I think my prayers have been answered. But as far as like another one, oh wait, Hell's Paradise just got confirmed for a season 2. So all right, I'm set.
Oh, Hunter x Hunter.
Oh yeah. Hunter. Yeah, at least have the manga finish and then have the anime finish. We do not need anime only endings. We do not need a repeat of Full Metal Alchemist. We do not need a giant filler arcs.
Tokyo Ghoul.
I did not know Tokyo Ghoul had an
No, I'm talking about just anime endings.
I did not realize they had some. Oh yeah, also we need a season 2 to Promise Neverland.
Yes, I just thought about that.
Yeah, we need a season 2 to that. We need that to be to done. Oh, and another show I saw like from back in the day that I know it ended, but like it wasn't like finished correctly. Dead Man Wonderland.
Interesting.
Yeah, and if you look it up, it's actually a pretty dark show where basically a kid like gets framed for the murder of his entire class, gets sent to prison, and it turns out he has blood. He's a bloodbender. But yeah, like the way the show ended was just like, eh.
Okay. Kimber, do you watch anime?
No, I don't. I've seen one movie from, is it Ghibli Studios?
Studio Ghibli.
And I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's about like she flies on a broom and she does
Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yes, it was very cute though. I really loved it.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was really good. So I'll have to watch more.
Nice. All right. So were those all the questions, Mitch?
Yep, it was.
All right. So let's hit us with the plugs and then let's get up out of here.
All right, so we have ourselves our Instagram and our Twitter at Blerd City 22. Like, follow, hit the bell for notifications. You may see us on Threads, but yeah, and then we have ourselves our Patreon and then our YouTube page, Blerd City Pod. Donate some cheddar, you get yourself some extra content like our deconstruction of Spider-Man one more day that I wish never happened. And then Trash-tastic 4. But then we also have ourselves our Discord linked into our Instagram page. That's where you can join a fine community of folks who are just really into memes and culture and just general degenerosity. But after that, we have ourselves our nice email address where you can submit questions like Moran Jojo did, blerdcity22@gmail.com. Submit more questions for mailbags. We'll be happy to answer your questions on the air. And live on the air, that is a question for later. And then also submit like just other suggestions and things of that nature. Finally, personally, I'm the Rogue Jedi 21 on TikTok. However long we have TikTok, because that site is going down relatively soon. You may catch me on Threads, aka the competitor to Twitter. But then again, I might get taken down from there too, because I will be out of pocket. But then again, so will everybody else. So, but yes, that's just me. What do y'all got?
Yes, for my individual author pages, you can catch my Instagram at Mitri_Dash. So METRI_DASH. And for my Twitter at the Mad-16, which is also going the way of the dinosaur soon. And then if you're interested in my book, Phantom Pains, A Most Irregular Tale, you can catch that on Amazon. Just finished the edits for the first round of edits. About to get into the beta reader stage. So we are really close to finishing and releasing as intended. All right. So we usually leave people with words of encouragement. Kimber, we leave that to you as the guest for today.
Awesome. It's never too late to find your love in the nerdom. It always builds such like a childlike fun and connection, and you always find these great communities. So join the nerdom.
Perfect. So as we always say, it's not goodbye forever, it's goodbye for now. And that's the Blerd City Podcast.
See you later. Hail to the Squirrel Queen. Do not open the red door.